we're gonna start. We are recording. I'm joined by my great ITQI team members today. I'm Maria Montoya. I'm a senior strategist with the ITQI team, and I see Reba Richardson is on. You may have gotten emails or reminders from her. And then we have our fearless leader, Donna Wade, is joining us in case we have some questions that maybe the three of us cannot answer. We have gotten in the last couple of weeks questions about wages and bonuses and wondering, how you plan out your money for the rest of the year. Hi, Donna. And I feel like I'm going to mute. I feel like I hear some small people, so I'm going to mute you. But if you have a question, we have a small presentation deck just on why we're getting folks together and why you'll continue to hear about wages as we continue to implement the grant. But our whole goal and so much energy that we took from last week's TA session is to just answer questions from you all and make sure we're getting you the information that you need and want to know. And if there's things that we can't answer, how do we make sure we try to figure out where to get the resources for that? If there are, experts or people that are trying other things that we could maybe bring them to talk to you about. Or if we can, spend more time. Sometimes we need to look up some things for you and make sure that we can get them answered correctly. So I am going to a deck, but if you've done any kind of sessions or office hours with Laura, Reva, and I, you know that we are not super formal, so we don't mind you answering questions or raising your hands while we're talking. I really wanted to make sure that Laura and Donna were here today because they know all the details about money and allocations and allowables and the things that we can or cannot do with the funding. Many of you know I'm kind of your idea partner in coming up with things and strategies, but they are the money folks and also the folks that make sure we don't break any rules. So I wanted to make sure they were here. So I'm going to open up our deck. But again, remember, if you have questions, we want you to make sure you get them answered.
Why is oh.
Okay, I hope you guys can see my screen. And then Laura, I'm going to make you co-host too, so that way if anybody comes in or needs to be unmuted, you can unmute them. Okay, so I can't see you, so if you have a question, make sure you grab Laura. So again, the purpose of this is to make sure we go over the most important part of our grant, which is we're working on wages. We're trying to close those gaps between what you're able to pay your staff and yourself now for those working with infants and toddlers, and trying to get you to a space where we're closer to what we want those wages to be for folks working in early learning. My screen is not moving. There we go. Some of you have asked if the focus is more on the wages or if we're more interested in filling those childcare subsidy seats. And any of you who have talked to Reva or Laura and I have heard many, many times, we're really, really focused, hyper focused on figuring out what is it going to take to cover the wage gaps and how do we get there? How do we get you all the quality staff that you need? We know that when you have a high level of staff, you're able to improve your programs, you're able to retain families. So really the focus of this funding was to really work on the recruitment and the retention of the staff. We're also giving some funds, to expand the seats, but we really want to test to gather the data around what it's going to take resource-wise to recruit and retain that staff. We think this is really important to do this because we need to be able to tell your story. And we wanted to make sure that you knew the things we were already learning. And then also, in talking with some of you, we know that it's not possible to always get all the things or to read all the things. So we wanted to uplift some of the things that we've tried to have in our newsletter every time we send out our e-blast. If you're not getting it, please make sure you put in the chat a note for our team so that we can make sure and check your email address. But we're going to go over the wage calculator, the balancing the scales wage report, and then also just a really important sheet going back to the ITQI FAQs that many of you saw when you were onboarded to the grant. I think in one of our last office hours, somebody said, why did we need to do so much reporting? And we really just want to emphasize that when we talk about wages and we're asking you about wages, when we're talking about your enrollment, we're really trying to secure enough data to tell the story of what you need so that we can also help advocate for those resources. I think it's always important because you know that your individual programs were awarded funds. But here's what, when we're telling the story, we're able to say about the ITQI pilot. And I think it's really amazing to look at the group of you and what the potential impact could be. So there's 195 of you, 95% childcare businesses that are funded, one ran directly by women, and 48% by BIPOC women. 70% are caring for a child with developmental delay or disability, or a child who's receiving early on services. 80% are offering non-traditional hours, which we know essentially for families who are low income, those non-traditional hours allow them to work a second or third shift. 91% are located in zip codes that are within childcare deserts as identified by the state. And so for those of you who are in one of those, you might have heard it called that before. But for those of you who haven't heard that, that's where you don't have a high population of childcare, where you have more children who are eligible for services, but there isn't enough childcare to necessarily serve them. I don't know if this is in your way, but I feel like it is, so I'm going to try to move it. What we're learning so far, so nobody take a picture of this. This is some early data that we've been able to get approval from our partners, Public Policy Associates, to share with you. And what they're finding from your staff that they've been able to survey is that 43% of staff have received an increase in pay in the last 3 months. This is again supported by the funds from the grant. 65% of staff received bonuses. 79% of staff were very satisfied or somewhat satisfied with the increased pay. Again, this was not all programs. So 195 programs were originally selected. Out of this, 250 staff members from 44 providers were surveyed. Not everybody answered, but this is some pretty awesome results for that pool of folks who were surveyed. Barriers, what we're learning from your reports and why I felt like this was important to kind of kick off our discussion about wages is we know these things. We know from the many TA sessions, from the few TA sessions we've done, but more the office hours that we've been able to spend with you all and the reporting that we're getting back, that you continue to struggle to find qualified staff. And particularly, I think it's really important to uplift hearing from so many of you staff who see this as a career option. So you'll have staff, you'll get trained, and then they'll get offered something better. And you feel like that because they don't see their position as a career, they'll easily leave. This turnover is also impacting your teachers who do see it as a career, and impacting your families who are really disappointed when a staff member leaves, or seeing a number of people turn over, they might also leave and seek another option. Instability of funding. We've heard from many of you that it's hard for directors and owners to create long-term solutions when the funding solutions that you have been able to try and use are not necessarily permanent ones. No control over approval and or billing turnaround time as it pertains to families getting approved or caught up on billing. What Laura and I've heard time and time again is, you know, it's really hard. A family will get approved, and then it takes a long time to get that back pay. Or in some of your counties, or I'd say some of your regions, areas within counties, it's harder even to get a family approved. Families that you know are approved, it's just taking longer because there are, in some cases, a higher caseload. This is our initial data. We know, I think you guys know this, so I'm not going to dive deep into this for a long time about how hard it was to supply the staff that you need. We know that the infant and toddler staff, they have to take extra trainings. They typically, you know, are dealing with kids who are in diapers and all of those things. And so it's also tough because not everybody also wants to be in a toddler classroom. And so this is not data that I'm sure you guys are unfamiliar with, but we know as a team that this is a part of, you know, the barrier that you experience when you're trying to recruit and retain staff. I'm going to have Laura, so you don't get tired of hearing me talk about some of the tools and resources that we have. We know that it's hard for you all to get away, to pull out of being with your team and being in classrooms to be with us, and that you can't necessarily, you know, sit sometimes for a full TA session, but we want to make sure when we email these things out, that you know that all of these links are available to you.
Thanks, Maria. Excuse me. So we do have a number of resources on the website. So the website, when you get this, it will have it linked in it, but the website is greatstarttoquality.org/grants. When you get to our website, you will see a number of things on it, a number of links on it. Here are just a few. So the first one is the wage scale. And what that tells us is what is the prevalent wage in your region, in your county. It's broken down by county, and it has on it the list of job types within the field. So you can select if it's an assistant, if it's a lead teacher position, and then if it's for infants, toddlers, or preschool. And you can see what a comparable level of education and credentialing would be in other fields. So one of the things that we've heard so much, of course, I'm preaching to the choir, you all know this, is that you see a lot of loss in the ECE field into kindergarten classrooms, GSRP classrooms, especially the ones in school districts. And so this can kind of give you a comparison of what our goal should be if we're trying to create wage parity to make these jobs in early childhood, especially in infants and toddlers, comparably paid and therefore on at least some level comparably attractive to workers. The Balancing the Scales wage report is a kind of an executive summary of that. It breaks it down and shows specifically what the different wage options are, you know, for example, if they comparatively to, say, retail work in your area or to other types of what would be considered entry-level type work in the area, so that you can get a sense of how pay scales vary across sectors that way. The ITQI FAQ, that's been up since the very beginning of this pilot program. And in the FAQ, we were asked to put together, and I asked for your patience on that because we were putting it together based on what we thought questions would be, not necessarily after what we had the questions from you all. So there are some things that were perhaps not addressed early on in the FAQ. But if you have a question after reading through it, by all means, of course, reach out to us always. We'll happily schedule some one-on-one time to make sure that you have your questions answered. Then there's a copy of the onboarding video and a copy of the reporting and documentation videos. So all of those things are on there to help you. when you're doing your reporting, one of the questions I would say the question that we got the most response of questions about was computing your average wages. And I just want to point out why that is so critical. So first of all, we recognize that you're probably not teaching averaging in your preschool classrooms, in your infant and toddler classrooms especially. So I get it. Math, I had to sit down and think about how to make the math work too, which is why we put together the calculating an hourly average wage for reporting, which has some screenshots and some things on how to figure out exactly what it is that you're trying to calculate for us there. So that is up there as well. But what we saw when we gathered your data in March, in the March quarterly report, what we saw when we gathered that data is that we can say that amongst our participants, every single categories from assistant infant teacher to lead toddler teacher, all across, did see an increase in their average wages. And it worked out to be an average of I shouldn't say this because I can't remember exactly, but I want to say it was like $1.40 an hour. So that's great. We're happy to see that we did have, in fact, that increase across the board by job categories. And it's not getting us closer to wage parity with preschool teachers in school districts. So we're working on it. We want to see more. We recognize some of the problems that come with wanting to see more, especially since we, don't know what is going to happen with the funding for this come September. That's why we're encouraging you to use it as bonuses instead of as wages. But, we are happy to see that it did in fact go up across categories. Okay. Next slide.
Yep. I had there, I hope you guys can still hear me. I think just on the bottom, Laura, like nervous,
Yeah.
wondering how to close those gaps, etc. I think that's from hearing folks talk kind of offline about, hey, we're worried. And I think even though we don't have office hours, we're going to hear us repeatedly say it, like, please email us. We'll schedule one-on-one time with you. I just spent about an hour and a half with a provider talking about like marketing and retention stuff. And like, we really want to help you. We know that you have these resources, but like you might also feel more comfortable having one-on-ones. And so if you email that ITQI grants, we hope to have some discussion right now, but if you want to schedule one-on-one about using the funds and the bonuses and how you're planning to do it now through September, please don't hesitate to schedule with the team via that email.
Yeah, I'm happy to meet one-on-one with anyone who wants to go through their own bonus structures and see how things are going that way. You actually, if you've gotten my emails, and I'm pretty sure it's in all of the newsletters as well, there's a link that says schedule time with Laura. You can schedule any time that's available on the calendar that pops up when you click that link. You're welcome to schedule time to have a one-on-one conversation. Anytime that's available is time that's actually available. So I keep my calendar very up to date. So please don't hesitate to do that.
And I don't see any questions in the chat. The last slide was just, again, that email address. And we will send the slides out in our newsletter that's coming out on the 6th. But then we will also have our comms folks post this to the ITQI website. So you guys will know those resources are there. But we really want to hear your questions about like, hey, what are folks doing with bonuses? What are, ideas? Are you allowed to do certain things? I think it's really important that, one, you guys have that space, but also met with a group of providers yesterday and said, we want you to be testing these things now, because as you test now, we're going to be collecting data again in June on those long-term reports. And we want to see how you're doing, because with your data, our goal is, again, to tell your story, to say what you need, to say what you're learning from your staff. And so we don't want you to necessarily be super conservative with your funds right now. We want you to be testing and learning. But I will be quiet. So if there's any questions in the group, and remember, no questions too silly or to out there.
Canberra, yes, you can upload receipts into your GSQ profile the same way that happened with the stabilization grants. While we're waiting for other people to have questions, I will just share that we will be, you'll be getting this in the newsletter here in the next few days, but two updates, I suppose. One, that we will be doing monitoring. The monitoring plan has been approved by the state. So we'll be doing monitoring because this is a smaller pool of numbers. We'll be doing a smaller pool of monitoring. So we'll be contacting those of you who have been selected in the next week or so, getting those emails prepped this week. The other thing is that because of the March report, the data we got on the March report, and the new subsidy list that we got from MyLeap, you will see changes to your payment amount starting this month. You may have already gotten an email from Reva. I believe those went out this morning or yesterday. But if you haven't, then perhaps that's one of two things. So here's how the payments changed. If you had your program improved in quality score, you did receive a one-time bonus payment. If you had staff who completed a CDA, then there will be $1,000 for you to pay your staff. If you had staff complete a college course and upload their transcript with at least a C, then there's a $500 bonus for completed ECE college courses. Again, one-time payment. And if you had a staff member complete a college degree, then there is a bonus payment in there for them as well. Do note we will be following up with staff to make sure that they did in fact receive the bonus payments. So the email detailing all of that should have gone to your emails. If there were no bonus payments, then you got a slightly more generic email saying that you had a change, potentially you had a change in your slot numbers. So you should not, we didn't take money away from anyone. So you should not see a decrease in your payment amount. However, those of you that increased the number of subsidy billing seats that you had, anyone that, I'm sorry, so any increase in your subsidy billings, we did add slots. Andrea, Reva, can you message Andrea and get a license number? Bonuses can, yes, if they completed, we were very specific in the criteria for the college courses. So if they completed a college course with at least a C and they uploaded the transcripts for that, we did give a bonus. So, and you are always welcome to give your staff bonuses out of these funds for completing coursework additionally. Somebody had a hand up and then they just.
Tambra, I think Tambra.
Did you have another question, Tambra?
Yes, now I made you guys small again. Oh no. So my question is that when I was uploading receipts, I only had 3 choices to choose from. So I mean, not in the receipt where it says receipt or document, but where they actually the funds went. So it did not allow me to have a section where if I purchased, materials, is it all just put it under that one tabby that says infant to toddler? I don't know, it's the second one down. But there's only 4 little tabbies that you can choose from. Bonuses, or then it says infant programming, curriculum, and then it says minor improvements, and then it says personnel. Those were the only 4 selections for receipts. Is that how you want us to determine it?
Because those are the only 4 categories that you really should be spending the money on. Predominantly, those are the 4 categories.
Well, I guess I just do better bookkeeping then, because Because I like the categories like exactly where that, like what equipment that's what I guess I'm assuming, that's what I'm saying, is that are we calling anything we purchased for the infant and toddlers to increase the spots curriculum then? Improvement? Is that
Yeah, I mean,
guess
if
that's
you
my
if you
question.
purchased like stuff to improve the quality of your infant toddler classroom, put it in under curriculum. Yes,
Okay. I guess that's what I'm saying. To me, that's equipment.
that's fine.
Okay, thank you. I was just like confused last night. That's where I stuck everything because I was like, if it's infant toddler, that's where it's going.
Fine.
All right, thank you.
Can we use this funding for hiring extra staff floater to keep on the clock specifically to help with infant toddler classrooms? Yes, absolutely, Lisa. You may absolutely use this funding to do that, to hire a float staff for your infant toddler rooms. Yeah,
But Laura, you have to make sure they're
But-
W-2'd. What have you been teaching me?
sorry, but they have to be employees. So I do want to specify and clarify, that's the word. I want to clarify the difference in general, because we've had this question a lot. People have said, well, I thought I couldn't hire contractors. You can't for your childcare classrooms. When I'm saying you can't hire contractors, I mean for the childcare classrooms. Maria and I had a long conversation about this yesterday. That doesn't mean you can't hire a contractor with this money to go to a recruitment fair, or a contractor who like contracts through, say, EduStaff. You couldn't, I'm not saying you can't use this to pay your EduStaff contractor bill. You absolutely can. I'm saying you can't use this to hire, your next door neighbor and pay her under the table with a 1099 at the end of the year kind of situation. They have to actually be employees. There was one other question up here. So, are you seeing providers using the entire awarded amount for bonuses each month? Some. I would say it's a mix. Some providers are using 100% for bonuses, and some have been using it for a mix of the two, a mix of bonuses and other type needs for the center infant toddler classrooms. But I would say there are definitely some that are using it entirely for wages and bonuses. Okay, Jess, if that's the case, again, send an email with your license number. I'll double check and see. Or have Amanda do it when she's back tomorrow. What other questions? Oh, and I should also point out, when I say that, it's a very specific, I'm not saying that I don't know. We get a pull directly from MyLeap of subsidy. And it's so what you were awarded was based on your subsidy.
Okay.
What you were awarded, if any increases were based on your subsidy billing increases as of March 15th, that, so you may have added someone, but if the number changed, the number had to change with MyLeap's billing. It's not just like, oh, I added people and here's their papers. It's actually through the billing process. So you may have added people and not had billed for them in time for that pull to catch it. So in which case we'll potentially see it in the next quarterly pull here in June. So, so depending upon when you added them, when you completed your billing for them, that's the number that we had to go with. So I apologize too, my voice is really creaky today from all of the pollen floating around. Any other questions?
I think you got all the ones in the chat. Another one that the group brought up, I met with a group in person, and they loved that Laura uplifted for us the fact that you can use some of these funds if you are trying to boost your hiring posts on social media, if you're trying to use Indeed, if you're paying for those to go out in different places, just to really kind of expand your reach. So if that was something that you didn't know, Laura did help clarify that for me. And I thought that was something that a lot of the providers I was talking to really we're going to try and test this month and next month. And so again, if you're trying to test different recruitment strategies on social media or paying for ads, etc., you can use funds to do that.
Absolutely. You can use funds to pay for boosting posts for the actual like if you are doing a post on Indeed and you want to do a boosted post on Indeed, you can do that. LinkedIn, any of those. I haven't seen Facebook jobs so much lately, but I know they used to have a job posting board. But absolutely any of those kinds of and one of the things that Marie and I talked about was sometimes in some of the communities that you all live and serve in, people still read their little community newspapers or their ad savers or whatever they call them. They call them different things in different places. But if you're in a community where that gets used, or if you are in a community where there are, I know, for example, when I lived in Dearborn, there were a couple of small local Arab language newspapers that were really just for that community. If you want to post and, put a job posting in something like that, that would also be completely fine and appropriate. LaTanya, what is your question?
Oh, hi. So I couldn't figure out how to raise my hand. It's taking me forever. So I'm like, okay, am I typing in this chat? What am I doing? Oh, okay. Oh, wait, it's right here. Raise your hand. Okay, so great. Several questions because I got on this meeting late. And I got on the meeting last week late. Because I feel like I need several reminders, and I'm sorry, you probably feel like you send out enough reminders, but yeah, so I wouldn't even be on this meeting right now if I wouldn't have got a message that said, "Oh, we sent the wrong link." I was like, "Oh, that's today, 3 o'clock. Let me get that out." So anyway, I just want to say that I need reminders for the reminders, please. But I just
Got you. We do too.
so it was nice to have that. Like I said, if I wouldn't have got this in, we had the wrong link, I would not even be on this one again. But I want to say that I personally am still thrilled to have this grant, even though my stipend is quite small. I have been trying to get it increased, but I guess there's nothing I'm sending is able to get it increased. But I want to say that I have given 100% of my very small stipend to all of my staff as a bonus. So.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And so see, yeah, some programs are in fact doing that. What were your questions, LaTanya? Did you have any questions specifically?
I'm just trying to figure out, so I know in the beginning, you had talked about if you had slots available, then you can request additional funding for that. I sent email in regard to that, but I didn't get any feedback back from that. So I'm just wondering if that's still a case. I do know like a program in my local area that is closing that had several slots, and I'm like, okay, will those slots be available if they were in my area? Some of their families have reached out to my program. So I was just curious.
Are you I mean, we just did the slot at the adding of slots. As if a program is closing in your area, are you up in the UP?
I am.
Okay, I think I know which program you're talking about. Yeah, actually, one of the things that we wanted to talk to that I've been out a couple days, so I apologize. I'm a little behind in a couple of things, but we've reached out to the director at said program to see what plans or what we can do to support them in this. So,
coming in to use the potty, over.
Oh, yeah, I think it's I
I'm sorry. That was just funny.
I think it was.
But we are reaching out to that program, and are you available? I mean, are you able to take an additional children in? If so, Riva, make a note. We'll figure that out then.
Well, I am, and I have been, and I've sent several emails, but I haven't gotten responses from my emails. This is even prior to this. Because I don't know about anybody else, which would be nice to know, but I guess I'm a visual person, learner, but the phrasing of the question, I guess, throws me off every time that I have filled out whether it be the monthly or whether it been the initial application. I guess the phrasing, I guess I'm always thinking of it as, when you use the word expansion, I think of it as expanding my program of what I already can take as children, not like, oh, you have 5 spots open. Openings versus expansion, to me, I guess my definition of how I relate to that is a little bit different. So every time I have filled that out, when I see the word expansion, I'm thinking, well, no, I'm not expanding. I don't have the space to expand. But I'm not thinking of that as, oh, this question is asking me, can I take more children? And so I never filled that out as, yeah, I can take more children. I always said, no, I'm not expanding, because no, I'm not expanding. But I guess I don't read that question as, do you have available spots for children, when the word expansion is being used?
Okay, I will take that feedback for when we're putting together the next round of reporting.
Do you understand? Does that make sense?
I absolutely,
What I'm
yeah, I
saying? Okay.
absolutely hear what you're saying.
So every time I fill that out, I've done it wrong, because the word expansion just throws me off. I don't know why, even though I made a mental note to say, okay, that expansion means spots, but I still fill it out the same way.
Okay, all right. Did you have any other questions?
I do not.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Centrise?
My question was, are any programs using their grant funds for their teacher CDAs? And if you are, what program are you using? Because our program used to use, what is it called? Quorum. Now Quorum has partnered with Teaching Strategies Gold, and that is that's another creative curriculum. But all my programs don't use Teaching Strategy Goals, so then I can't use Quorum for the CDA program. So is there another program that's on their own time base that you know of that we can use, or another program uses? Because one of my sites use High Scope. Another one of my sites use Creative Curriculum Teaching Strategies Gold. My High Scope site cannot use Teaching Strategies Gold CDA program now, because they combined. So is there another program that you know of that we can, outside of them going to school?
Yeah, I do not.
Or anybody on
I'm
here?
I'm throwing this open. Anyone have any
And it's a virtual, Chantrice, you want a virtual CDA?
Yes, because we pay our teachers to do it on the clock. So
Can you send to Riva, just put your license number and your program name in there for Riva to jot down? And I know of one, I knew she took a pause in the winter, but my understanding from her Facebook page is she's back on and doing it virtually, because she had a baby, but there was one person that I knew of was doing it virtually at one point, but then they have to be able to be assigned, to do certain hours or activities to a program locally, or if they're working with you, you would give them their hours with you. So I'll send that to Riva so that we can get you that information. But I think that they started up back and running back in February. She came back from maternity leave in February or early March.
okay. The other question was, I know we can't use the funds for major renovations. They can be minor renovations. So before I received the grant, I was in the middle of updating my, what is it called? I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank.
You can use that for minor renovations that increase the number of slots. Like if you're going to be able to increase the number of slots by doing this. So unless it's specifically going to do that, then no.
No, it will specifically do that. It'll increase mine from 50 to almost 80 kids.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, minor renovations you know, like putting in a hand washing station, or, you know, changing out the flooring to make it appropriate for an infant room, things like that, that's all fine.
Okay, no, my minor renovation is my fire alarms servicing system. So I have a fire alarm system. I have to put a certain dialer in. So that, okay. just
That's
making
not
sure.
structural, that's
Okay.
fine.
So I had a comment, Santrice. First of all, you know that you can use the funds to pay your staff while they're taking those courses. So that extra, you can use that. And also, I was on a meeting this morning with Robin for my registry, and she said through my registry, people can take all the 120 hours of coursework through my registry. So any trainings you find, they're already categorized as to what sections of the CDA it covers. And so people can get their CDA just by taking courses through my registry.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Now that's great to know.
And I believe the young lady that I was telling you about, my understanding is she should be on my registry.
Everyone should have their staff in my registry.
Yeah, so
All
she,
staff
and-
should be.
yeah. And depending on what area you were in, and if they got some of the state technology funds, she was at one point, able to give people like laptops or iPads or something for using while they were doing the program. Latanya, did you have another one, or you just got your hand raised? You just,
Silly girl. No, I do have another question. So
No
here's my
problem.
question that I forgot to ask. So I have an employee who just got her CDA letter in her email yesterday that she has attained her CDA. Now, she got a preschool CDA, not an infant and toddler CDA. Does that work? And the reason why I'm asking that is because she works with my 2.5-year-olds to my 3.5-year-olds. And so she does work with my 2.5 and 3-year-olds, which
Are any of are there children in her classroom that are on subsidy?
yes,
And are they under 3?
yes.
Then I'll count it.
Okay.
Unless
'Cause I was
Donna
gonna-
says no.
I'm gonna
I'll
put
say
that
it.
on, I was gonna put that on there next month, but I didn't tell her about it yet. But I did tell her that there may be a possibility. And I have been paying her a bonus, and I did submit her name for the surveys that you were doing for
As long as she's caring for children.
she
that-
is. Yep,
that
she is.
are-
I have mixed age classroom. She is. Yep.
Yep.
But I didn't, like I said, it's not an infant and toddler one. It is a preschool one because she mainly works with that 2.5 to that 3.5 year old. And so it's a preschool one. It's not a infant and toddler one. Okay. Thank you.
Mhm. Any other questions? Donna, any other comments or things you wish to share with the group?
No. I didn't have anything else, but thank you for letting me join you all so I can hear all the wonderful things you're doing with your funding.
Yes, we really appreciate you all taking time out of your crazy busy days.
yes, you all are rock stars and we appreciate you, and please do email us. We will have on this thing, you will also have Latanya, because I know you'd be like, I emailed.
I did.
I have both emails on there, so if you don't get through one, you'll get through the other. And what we did share with the group, just full transparency, was last week that we all attended MIYC, and I know that some of you did too, probably, but I don't know how you felt about it. But I know that it took me a while to get all those auto conference emails out of our inbox, so we are still cleaning them, some of them out from the national national AYC. So you will have both emails on there. So just make sure that you have Laura's and then ITQI grants email. I don't know if I cut you off, so Latanya, please come off mute if you have one
Oh,
more.
yes. So you were saying you did receive my email about the marketing, how I want to be a guinea pig?
Yes.
Okay, great. Awesome. And then my last question, these questions, they just roll in my head because my brain never slows down. But now, so I have I had an infant toddler teacher that had a CDA that I unfortunately had to let go. And so my assistant teacher in that room is now working toward her CDA, and she's going to be doing actually a cohort, a collaboration with our local university as well, which is starting in June. But I'm wondering, is there anything that I could put in the report that she's doing that now that I would be able to maybe give her a different type of bonus or something like that? I didn't know, so I was just asking. She won't be finished until I believe it's August, that they'll be done. So she's starting June and she'll be done in August.
We will have the final report will be the in August, and it will be the longer questions again, where you'll be able to share that. If we have funding available at that point, then we'll, then we will
Okay.
include it. If it's, if it's, as long as it's completed by
Completed.
the end of the grant period.
Yes, it's good. It's gonna be, she has to by August because we're up for our review for our quality level. And so so it will be August, but she's not starting until June. But for some of the people that was on this group that they said that they were wondering about how to get a CDA, there are several community colleges that are doing collaboratives with Teach, and they're starting cohorts right in your community. And so maybe reaching out to your local community colleges to see if they are in collaboration with some of those would Teach would be great for some of your employees. Our local university actually is doing it, but then we have several community colleges in our area that are doing it as well. And they have like a summer, a fall one, and a spring one that's going on right now. And that my employee of mine that I said that just finished, she was in the fall winter one. So
Thanks for sharing that, Latanya. I agree. Going through Teach is the best way to probably find, get the information you need for a cohort.
yes, yes. And she my employee that just finished the one, they had a little Zoom graduation, and all of my other employees, we were all on the little graduation. It was all cute. But she really, really learned a lot. And with our the one that my current employee now is registered to go through, with the new collaboration, they're going to get 9 credits, college credits toward an associate's degree as well. So it's just really a win-win situation all the way around. It's such a short, I mean, it's like June to August. That's like no time. It's, it's a couple lives every month, and then you're doing the work on your own. So as far as the courses, but they have the courses already out of the work that you have to do. So yeah, I say if you got employees that'll do it, I just share the information all the time with my employees. Because I have a quality level goal by 2025 that all of my assistant teachers and my support staff would have CDAs. And this was prior to all of this support and money and funding for this. So this is really helping me to reach my goal with my staff. So I'm pretty happy about that.
That's awesome.
Awesome. Thank you, Latanya. I'll just add briefly, if you haven't reached out to your community college folks, student support services. So some of the providers in different areas have a relationship with the person who runs student support services. They are generally in charge of the employment career office as well, and they have given flyers for their programs to the student support services person to not only put in the HR packets for the college, but also to put in the counseling packets for the students. And so generally they're not going to charge you for that. You're helping them because they have to get so many people reconnected back to school for their state goals. So again, student support services with the community colleges, they're generally a lot easier to reach out to than your main universities or the private colleges, but just giving them flyers for both their staff and for the students in the Career Placement Center. We have 3 minutes left. We want to be cautious of your time. So if there's any last questions, please throw them in the chat or raise your hand. And again, we're going to put the recorded Zoom up on the website, and then we'll also have the links available in the e-blast, the newsletter that will come out on the 6th. But we thank you all. You guys truly are awesome. You always show up. And for those of you who jumped on late, again, if you get the emails that have the dates for the TA in them, they are not required, but we've heard from some of you that you prefer to get an email invitation so that it kind of goes on your calendar. Riva and Amanda are sending out reminders. And then always check at the last minute, because should somebody mess up the invite like I may have done today, you will get a reminder where to find us at. But thank you all so much.
Thanks, Maria and Laura.
Thank you.
Have a good day, everyone.
You
Yep.
too.
Bye, Riva.